Stream is live. We're doing it live.
Hello, hello. Okay. Microphone's working for some reason. Can you guys say anything?
Yes, you are good.
Now I can hear you. What it keeps having this delay today. So it makes me think it's not working. It's frustrating the living fuck. Sorry, out of me. Pardon me, Rosie.
I bet she's heard that before.
Out if it offends you.
We're live! Hello, everybody.
are
We're live.
We're live.
We are live. Cliff, man, what a news day! As you sort of figure out the framing on your shot, I wanted to start because I saw the breaking news headline this morning. Members of Congress were shown the video, the DoD classified video of the second strike on this boat, September 2nd. Right now it's classified because it hasn't been released. And Jim Himes, who represents part of Connecticut, and he's the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, he came out and said this is the most troubling thing he has ever seen in his public life. The most troubling. Now, that backs up what the Washington Post reported about people being horrified by this. There's a lot of people jumping on the Washington Post because the admiral testified this morning that there was not an order from Pete Hegseth or anybody else to kill them all or to kill all the survivors. So in that sense, okay, Hegseth is not a bloody murderer in that regard, but it's still
correct
against the law. This is still a violation of the rules of armed conflict. It's still murder if this is a law enforcement action. And so I don't think this video, and it sounds like it's graphic and horrible. I don't think this helps the administration case at all. If anything, once this is shown, people are going to be so disgusted by this. They're going to say, what on earth are we doing bombing boats and throwing out due process 1,500 miles away from the United States?
Absolutely. Let me say quickly. So, because, shocking to everybody, I was having some technical difficulties. But right now it's only the admiral who so far has exonerated him from this.
Yeah, right.
The admiral may be acting like good, honorable military people do, and in this case, it would be not honorable and wrong, but think he's doing the right thing. The way, sadly, I think there were times when Colin Powell thought he was doing the right thing for Bush and others of that nature, where they feel like they're in the military and they serve the civilian commander in chief and all this stuff, and they're trying to be honorable military guys while not throwing these guys under the bus, who, by the way, threw the admiral under the bus. So I got to be honest with you, I'm not going to just take that as proof that he didn't say kill them all. I'm not accepting that. You and I have been talking about this issue, writing about this issue. Let's say we know some things about this issue that hopefully we'll be writing more about. And there's too much going on out there. We got Colombian citizens who are suing the United States under international law. We got a Colombian president who said that somebody showed up there, incapacitated, in bad condition, who came from us. We have an Ecuadorian president who made claims too, also, that one of their citizens who showed up there, who, by the way, they couldn't convict with the evidence they had. And I don't think they have the due process laws in place that we do. We know, obviously, about there's so much of this out there already from various sources. Go ahead.
Right, and the people you would normally, military commanders would normally go to when they are told. By the way, there was a military admiral who was forced to resign because he disagreed with this policy. And so now we have, the person who's the senior operations commander who testified this morning, he agreed with the policy, but the policy itself is unlawful. And the people at the Pentagon, the military, the JAG officers, so many of them were fired by Pete Hegseth because he didn't want military commanders to be able to get legal advice to say, hey, this is an unlawful order. This is an unlawful policy. And again, we've said it over and over. The United States military is not going over and blowing up all of these drug boats that are off the coast of Miami. What's happening is they're being searched. People are being given an opportunity to surrender. That's what should be happening even down off the coast of Venezuela. And that's if this is a law enforcement action. There's nobody right now that I've seen who has made a credible argument that this is a military operation because Congress has not given authorization. They haven't approved war, even though Donald Trump says this is war. But even if they had, under the rules of war, under the Pentagon's own uniform code of military justice, attacking people who are survive a boat strike, who are clinging for life, that is against everything that the Pentagon stands for.
It's against everything the Pentagon stands for. It is against the U.S. Constitution. It is against the Geneva Conventions, which makes it quite clear if there are people who you have attacked and are survivors stranded. It even says on the sea. You can't just freaking blow them away. I mean, and when we talk about Venezuela, we should broaden this. This is how you conduct yourself in the entire world, because Donald Trump, of course, will do this anywhere. You don't get to do this in Iran. You don't get to do this in Sudan. You don't get to do this, in China. We have fucking laws. There is international law. We have a constitution. And I don't care.
And that international law, that precedent also protects our own troops, because the argument from the Trump administration is, the reason that we have the second strike is because these two survivors may have been clamoring on the boat and reaching for radios so that they could call other alleged drug smuggling boats. Well, you know who carries radios to try to get help? Our pilots. And when they're shot down over enemy territory, they are calling on their radios asking for assistance so that somebody will come and rescue them. Imagine now if, Iraqis or whoever it is, Afghanistan, if we have a pilot who's shot down, and the explanation for why that pilot is executed is because, he was reaching for a radio. Americans would go crazy over that.
No, I mean, again, it's all insanity. That's where it all ends up. And I have to do as I've done all week, bring it back, to having seen the movie Nuremberg and having it remind you of a Supreme Court justice. Remember when there were those that weren't Opus Dei freaks, sat there and said, in the face of so much, so many people saying, line them up and shoot them. These guys, Nazis, Hermann Goring, Rudolf Hess, some of the worst people, certainly of the last century or two, to live, were not lined up against the wall and shot. They said, we are going to set a precedent. We are going to create new international law. We are going to say that even the worst monsters among us are going to get a fair trial. So in one case, Robert Jackson, if we want to say how we're going backwards, in 1946 gives Hermann Goring a fair trial. But Pete Hegseth, this frat rat bro, with his beers and all his other ridiculousness, who is so unqualified for this job with a backup weekend anchor on Fox, he gets to just sort of go in and ignore all this and say, okay, well, they gave Nazis a fair trial, but these guys are drug runners, which they may even not be, but I don't even care. We're not going to give them. Nazis get a fair trial, but guys on a boat who may be fishing do not. We just blow them up. It's sickening. And again, it is not behavior that we can engage in anywhere around the world because of two reasons. You brought them up. One, they'll treat our troops like that. And in any case, some of these bastards do. But the whole point is to set some sort of a model for human behavior. And that's why you have trials and the rest also. I mean, the other thing is anybody who believes that any government that's done this stuff abroad has not brought it back home domestically. You've seen the guys with the masks, people out of cars, disappearing people, National Guard going to cities. You let them get away with this in Venezuela, it will all come back home. And then let's just end up where we began. It's a fucking war crime. You don't get to do this in Venezuela because you're Pete Hegseth and you feel like it. That's it.
Yeah, and this, great point about how this doesn't happen in isolation. I mean, there are violations of due process that the Trump administration is involved in across the board, not just in Venezuela, not just 1,500 miles away, but every day here in the United States. And that, leads us to our guest, and I'm thrilled that we've got her today.
Awesome guest, I would.
Her name is Rosie the Resistor. I don't know if I'm allowed to say her real last name, but in any case, she joins us from Utah. She has this wonderful Substack. She's a journalist turned activist, and she has done some incredible writing and very passionate about a lot of these issues involving due process and constitutional rights and civil rights. So let's bring her on.
Yes, let's bring her on. We like resistors. Oh, well, she just disappeared, but I bet she'll come back. Where are you?
There she is.
Got you, Rosie.
Hello, Rosie.
I don't have any sound.
Welcome to Blue Whale Media.
I'm trying to figure out what happened. Right. I've lost you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Just tell us if you can hear us. Can't hear us. Okay. Let's.
I was listening and then it shut off right before you brought me in.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have Lawrence, who's going to type you a message in the little chat here between us,
Lawrence,
and
are
he's
you
going to
there?
guide you onto how to
I
check
got
a couple
nothing.
things and possibly log back in, log out, and log back in with this link, and we'll get this sorted out. So no worries.
Yeah.
This kind of tech stuff happens. And by the way, for people who are watching us on Substack, normally the technology we use is
I think I'm
actually
going to
just
have to leave. What you're
that's
saying.
fine.
Hey, Rosie, just go ahead and drop and then rejoin using that same link and you'll be
Okay.
fine.
How do I
See,
drop?
guys, you want to see how the sausage is made, everybody? It's fun this way.
Oh my
You get to
God, all
see-
these windows, they're moving all over the place.
Oh my God, it's
Who
up,
is
it's
that
down,
guy?
it's around.
Who is that guy
I
with the
mean-
beard? Where did he come from?
It's like Santa was here early. Where the hell did he come from? Why
That
didn't he
is,
leave us some presents or something? If he gets Rosie in here, we'll consider that a present.
That was Lawrence Winterman. He was one of our Blue Amp Media leaders, and
Our COO. He makes
he's
things
a
function.
tech wizard
So
and all this stuff. Tech wizard on everything. So he's guiding Rosie, and there she
Hi.
is.
that's Rosie.
Here's now.
Hi. I'm sorry about that. I was
Wow.
listening right up until at the same time that you brought me in, my son tried to call, and I have calls blocked, but somehow they let him through anyway, and it
All
blew
right.
everything up.
That's happened
All
with
right.
my phone where it like switches over to the phone, the audio. I mean, our whole crowd here could tell you about my challenges with audio. They're
Well,
legendary at this point.
I'm
We're
right
just-
up there with you.
and I had
So
even when I
Rosie,
first came
are
in,
we
I
allowed
couldn't
to
talk
mention
to
your?
you. So
Are we allowed to
glad to
mention
have
your
you.
last name or not, or what's
Wheeler, yeah.
Wheeler? Okay, Rosie Wheeler, and she goes by Rosie the Resistor, and she's
Yes.
the creator of the Resistors Report. It's awesome, and it's on Substack. So, Rosie, you heard us talking about the due process being taking away 1,500 miles from the United States, and the waters
Yes.
off of Venezuela. They're being taken away by ICE on a daily basis. What do you make of why Donald Trump is sort of engaged in this war against civil rights and due process and constitutional rights?
Well, okay, my take on it is that he doesn't care. He's just in this for the money and the power and the, all the glamour that he's getting.
Yep.
And he has people whispering in his ear who they want to get rid of any kind of government control. They want a purely white Christian nation where business runs things. And so they're telling him what to do, and he's just like, oh, okay, let's do that then. So that's my take. Kind of cynical, but that's and it's not new. This due process lack of, we've seen this going on with the immigrants that and the citizens that they detain and then disappear. And they do not get due process. So this is just kind of a continuation of that same pattern.
I would also say that, sadly, and I do think we have to look back and say, whatever, I think I've said this on a couple shows now, maybe repeating myself where I am, I may be here, I don't know, but, what good Dick Cheney did at the end, and I'm glad he supported Kamala Harris and in whatever ways he helped. There's no way to sort of square any of this without looking back at what happened with Iraq and under the Bush administration. And, while I love and think, Barack Obama's presidency is one of the best, I do think it was a terrible mistake, the not looking back part. Because again,
yes,
when you don't look back, that means you accept what they did, creating justifications for what we consider torture when Japanese soldiers did it to us, waterboarding, and things of that nature. And you let them create justifications for going into an illegal war in Iraq based on, horse shit fed to them by, this curveball guy. And that comes into play here too, because our friend of the show, Jonathan Larson, has written a terrific piece. He's contributed a few pieces and one on this to Blue Amp, and Blue Amp Media, and he has sources that, and he has found out that there's two sort of right-wing lunatic for ex-Venezuelan expatriates in the United States who are feeding the same kind of bullshit to Trump about the machine stealing his votes from there, because yes, the ghost of Hugo Chavez and like something else, and who knows, but Trump can't accept, he can't emotionally accept that he lost. So if they can feed it to him that it somehow happened there, it was stolen from him, good. Then I can bomb them. And I mean, that's the ridiculousness we're sitting here looking at, but it's the fruit of the poison tree, what we let them do during the Bush Cheney years we're living with.
Well, and we also, come forward a little bit. We have all the January 6ers, the, impeachments. And again, the Democrats just said, oh, well, we'll learn from the lesson. I'm sure they'll learn from the lessons and we can just move on. And here we are. And, I think that's maybe not half the problem, but close to half the problem is we've got the Democrats have to stop this game of saying, oh, well, and
Right.
actually put a stop to things, because this is just a
The
ridiculous,
opposition party,
unbelievable
it's
point.
kind of what they should do.
Yeah.
Rosie, I mentioned at the top you're a journalist turned activist. I'd say sort of classically trained as a journalist. Take us through that transition. Where were you working as a journalist, and what was it that prompted you to make you think, okay, I need to do more? There's got to be something more I can do to be more actively involved.
Okay. Well, the transition. So, okay, I have a degree in journalism, and most of my journalistic work was actually while I was earning the degree, which took me about 10 years, because I have to go into some of my backstory that I'm in my 60s now, and I was just a few years ago left the Mormon church. So I was a Mormon up until that whole time. I was also a Democrat the entire time, which is really an unusual
Harry Reid.
combination. Yeah. And so I was rebellious. I did a lot of things that went against the system. But for the most part, I was obedient. It was kind of this mind fuckery going on. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Oh, you're allowed to use those words. Trust me.
Okay.
I think I made the path clear at the beginning. Go for
well, we hadn't technically started, so I wasn't sure. So anyway, I married at 19, started having babies. I actually waited 3 years to have babies, which was one of my rebellious things. That was a big thing, to wait 3 years till I was a ripe old 23 to start having babies. But I started booming them out. But I'm also, driven, and really wanted a career. And so through all the babies, and I also had health problems, I got my degree, but it took me about 10 years. And so I worked as a journalist that entire time. But then I got my degree right in the moment that everything went internet to online, and jobs just weren't available. So I did work for free for a while, but eventually I started publishing fiction. And so that was where most of my career was, and it was mostly a hobby. So when I say journalist, it's true, but it's not like I have a resume. Does that make sense?
Was there a particular event that triggered you to sort of be more involved in activism?
Trump. Yeah.
Trump.
And COVID. So I have long COVID, and
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And it's severe. That's why I live in California. I use a wheelchair. It's really bad. And I blame Trump for all of that. I mean, I've disliked Trump since I saw him as a playboy. I've never had a taste for him, and I just couldn't believe he won as president. And so that was what pushed me into activism democratically. I mean, politically. But leaving the church was around the same time, and it was kind of for the same reasons. And so basically, I decided it was time to actually act like a journalist. But I was so driven, like I'm trained to be fair, and I knew I couldn't just be fair. I had to speak my mind, and so that's where the kind of transition into activist came.
Yep.
Oh,
well, you can just be a columnist and get away with that. That's what I do.
I know these days.
Because I'm not a real journalist. I would never call myself that. David is a real journalist. I'm a guy who tries to get all the facts right and whatever, but then also pops off a lot. So
and my journalism is part of what sort of takes me towards being progressive on those things. That I sort of feel like if we live in a real, true fact-based world, in my view, 70% of the time, the facts around us support progressive views, progressive policies, progressive prescriptions for trying to fix the problems around us. Not on everything. I mean, there may be times where the facts are, fall in the favor of a more conservative ideology,
Right.
but for the most part, that's where I land.
Yeah, and that's where I am too. I just it didn't feel authentic to me, like I say, with the being the old school training to just say journalist, and then still
Fair
put
enough.
in so much opinion. And so
No,
yeah.
I fully get it. That's why I don't refer to myself that way either. But I think David prefer he offers things up in a he's probably gotten a little bit added a little more opinion since he arrived at Blue Amp Media here. But as
Right.
always, I think by telling the truth and telling the facts, right? The old
Yeah.
Colbert line about it having a liberal bias, reality. I mean, there was a time where we could all debate these things, right? And Republicans
Right.
did believe. I mean, I think they wrongly believed, but they believed in solutions. I mean, ironically, their solution on healthcare was Obamacare. That's what they
Right.
wanted. Individual mandate. They wanted less government involvement, more, more of the market's involvement. They had cap and trade was their sort of thing instead of there being a carbon tax. But they did actually try to solve problems. They just believed in more of a government approach. That's not
Right.
who these people are. These people,
No.
whether due to made up curves, from by drunken guys in bars on napkins like supply side economics, or made up crap that because my God told me that this is how it really is, so you can't have rights to your body or whatever. Like it stopped being in any way based on reality, based on
Exactly.
economics, based on science, based on
Yeah.
history. So I mean, I do find like
And
even if I didn't want to take those pot shots and I just wrote what objective truth is, which is what I think I wish corporate media were willing to do, they would come down on our side. I think 70%, David, maybe being a little bit even too modest there. I mean, I honestly think these days
right.
the right's gone so far off the rails, it's probably 9 out of every
Yeah.
10 times or more.
Right.
But like I'd be fine with that. When the truth's on their side, good. Tell that truth. But
Exactly. Right.
that's
And
not where we are.
that's how I've survived. I guess I would call it for probably 40 years in a mixed political environment. My husband is on the right, and we're still married, but live in different states. So there you go. But yeah, it's been tolerable. I've been okay being a Mormon Democrat, because like you say, they were at least trying for what they thought was the best solution for the country. And I'm fine with that. If you think this and I think that, and we're talking about more government control versus less, that's fine. We can have that argument. But the arguments today are, should we be blowing up people that are drowning in the water? Should we be
Right.
taking people off the streets that are on their way to work? These are not arguments you can really have legitimately.
No.
They're just not. So
What do
not
you
debates
hear
in a
from?
democracy.
Do you ever
Go ahead,
talk
David.
about these issues with your husband or Republican friends, and where do they come down? I mean, because when I talk to my Republican friends, they're like, yeah, I think Donald Trump's going too far on this and going too far on that, but I really
Right.
believe in, conservative economic philosophy, whatever.
Right. And that's, and this, it correlates a lot to my church experience. But when there are facts they don't want to hear, that don't align with what they've decided, they just don't hear them. They either won't listen, or they hear it and come up with some reason that it's not real. And it's just not in their head. So they don't think those things are really going on. A lot of times it's because of the news bubbles they're in. And you can present them with fact, and they'll typically say, oh, I don't ever trust that news source, or that's fake. There are people that I don't mix with who are, just bigoted and like what's going on, and I don't have any tolerance for them. I won't be in the same room with someone like that, which is partly why I don't go to church anymore, because there's a lot of them there. But the most of them, I think they're the good person, and think that what's going on is still for the best of the country, and they're just not listening to any details contrary to that.
It's so interesting you mentioned the church, because last time I checked, and again, I'm not, part of a church per se, but my understanding about church teachings is that we are all God's children, including
Right.
the people who are in Venezuela who happen to find themselves, if they're smuggling
Right.
drugs or whatever they're doing. And to me, the idea that people who call themselves, Christian conservatives or Orthodox Jewish people,
Yeah.
whatever it is, but subscribe to this idea that we can treat certain people as less than human, is
Right.
so mind-boggling.
It is. So there's two teachings that you may not be familiar with, and these aren't just Mormon, but Christian teachings.
Mm-hmm.
One is that we're the chosen ones, and so we're superior. God chose us. So that teaching, just we're better than anybody else. That's part of it, and the other is we're tasked as chosen ones with the responsibility of making everybody behave, to act like Christians. And so that's where they can put in these laws saying no abortions and no same gender marriages, because how are we going to be a Christian society if everybody's acting non-Christian? And it's our job to make sure everybody acts Christian-like. So they have these two messages, and they're not taught that bluntly, but they're taught. And starting from when you're a 2-year-old singing songs with that message in them, and so by the time you become an adult, you just think you're superior to everybody else, and that anybody who's not doing these things needs to start doing them, and it's your job to make sure they do.
Well,
So
I would
that's
just
where it
say
comes from.
this completely secular, non-religious Jew sitting right here, who believes. I believe in the Force, is what I believe in.
Of
If I'm going to
course.
be honest,
Yes.
and I'm going
Yes.
with that until anybody can prove me anything else. But I went to a liberal-minded, ecumenical, Episcopalian school in New York City for 10 years. And I learned about the parable of the Good Samaritan. And I learned about Jesus sitting with those who had less and feeding them,
Yes.
and sitting with the lepers. And I learned about, about what ended up becoming pretty much doctrine, and which this Pope has spoken out on, which is
Yes.
you don't get to just say abortion, 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 and claim that's life. Life is life, which means if you're blowing people up, you're not pro-life. If you are making people work under such bad conditions, they're dying in your corporate slave houses, you are not pro-life. If you're putting people to death with a death penalty without due process and that kind of thing, you're not pro-life. If you're starting wars that lead to people dying based on lies and crap, you're not pro-life. And I could go on from here. I mean, there's that whole side of things. You hear,
Right.
our friend John Fugelsang has been on here, wrote a book about it, because he was raised in more of that tradition. You've got James Tallarico out there right now in Texas talking about it. I mean, there is a strong, liberal, however you'd like to say it, progressive, forward-thinking tradition, and that's what I learned about. I got lucky in the school that I was sent to. It happened
Sounds
to
like
be
it.
even in the late 70s, early 80s, an integrated school, which in New York City at that time, I know it's New York City, but people don't get that at that time, integrated schools were not everywhere and not in many places. And so their open-mindedness, they taught the social gospel, if you want to call it that. And these
Yeah.
guys aren't, these folks obviously aren't learning any of those lessons,
No,
because
no.
it's not a good
They're
Samaritan type move to murder somebody in the water.
no,
I think I
no.
could say.
And they're specifically taught anti critical thinking. I mean, they're taught to not think too hard, and just this is what you need to know, and then just a simple abortion is murder. Don't think
Right.
too hard about it. That's all you need to know. So that critical thought that you're talking about sounds great, but the major Christian churches aren't.
Yeah, they're
I
not
mean, that's
sharing that
dangerous
message.
thought to them.
And
That's
that lack of critical thinking, or not being taught how to engage in critical thinking, which is what our schools are supposed to be teaching all of us, and I think some of
right.
us actually learn those lessons. But when you have an entire population or large segments of the population that don't know how to think critically and just sort of accept, then they become vulnerable for media like Fox News and Newsmax and people who say things that are totally absurd, that those of us who actually think them through say, no, that doesn't even make any sense.
Right.
But if you're consuming this and Fox News is your friend because they come on your TV each night, you just sort of, oh yeah, I saw it on Fox. It must be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gee, I got the willies just you saying Fox News is your friend. Like, I don't know. That's good. There's something about, hey, I'm going to go out with my friend Fox News. I may have to make a video parody of that. Me and Fox News went out for a drink, you know? Okay, go ahead.
I will say, every morning I go through all of the major headlines and, look at what's going on. And I have noticed just very recently some really fair articles that are Fox News. I've like researched what they're saying to be like, what are they up to? And I don't know what they're up to, but I have noticed a little shift with them. So be interesting to see if that continues.
Yeah, I mean, and they've had some Democratic guests who have come on, who have pushed back at some of their hosts, and so there's
Maria, what's her last name? Just the liberal.
Oh, Jessica Charlotte?
Yeah.
On the 5?
Yeah. Oh, she's great. I'm surprised they actually let her keep going on.
I know. It's shocking.
Well, it used to be the strategy when I was, so full disclosure, before I was at MSNBC in 2002, but before that, I was at Fox News from 1998 to 2002.
David.
Yeah, I know. Kidding. I was helping with the startup.
Right.
And one of the things that that was like Roger Ailes' trick for dealing with Democrats, and he had this in terms of some of the Democratic talent, that he would put on Democrats who were idiots, who were doofuses compared. So you had like Alan Colmes, who was a really nice guy, but he was horrible television. He was really slow, against Sean Hannity with all the energy, enthusiasm. And the reason Roger did this is because he wanted the Republicans, the conservatives, to win these arguments on TV. And so he would book Democrats who were idiots, because then it would be easier for the Republicans to win the argument. And that was his way of being balanced.
Right. Well, and you know what, David? The other strategy also that they would employ is the infamous Fox News Democrat, right? So they would, people that had actually respectable careers in Democratic politics, but then were offered a bundle of money, and again, I don't know what money they were offered, but I remember when Susan Estrich, who ran Dukakis's campaign, started going on Fox and magically was repeating right-wing talking points. Yeah. And I remember when, they seemed to pick them from losing Democratic campaigns. Bob Beckel, who had run Mondale's campaign. I mean, these were people that were good liberal people, had always been, and suddenly they went on Fox, and one can only imagine what they were getting paid. And, and that so that you either, if they had you on Fox for the most part, there are exceptions to that, but if they were having on regularly, you either were somebody they knew that you'd lose, you'd either look stupid, or you'd come off like one of the stereotypes that they were trying to create. Like, oh, look at, look at that Jew from New York who's all leftist, or look at that, look at that black woman who's angry. I'm just saying what the kind of crap they were trying to create. They were trying to create the stereotype that they wanted their people to see, or that we were, stupid. And then after that, as I said, they had the Fox News Democrats. But I will say, I have to say this, when this comes up, I'm still proud that I got banned from Hannity Incomes because I started insulting him during the show, and he wasn't happy about it. And then during the credits, we were still screaming shit back and forth at each other. And he told somebody afterwards, he watched, like, that asshole's never coming on the show again. And actually, the Republican I was debating, because I was in D.C. and he was in New York, or vice versa, the Republican I was debating, who I knew, called me actually to tell me, he's like, "You've just been banned." I was like, well, it's kind of cool. So that was kind of the rule, because you can't do that with Sean Hannity. You talk back to him, you're gone. So.
Yeah. And he's been around so long, he, way before Trump, that his followers trust him completely. And so this transition into all this Trump craziness, they're just following it right along, because he comes up with these excuses for why it's okay. And I actually follow Hannity and Glenn Beck so that I can have conversations with my people, because that's who they follow. And so I can, listen to the logic and then make conversation accordingly. And they do sound intelligent. If you just listen to them and it's all you listen to, I think you can easily make sense of it, as long as you're not thinking too hard.
I love this comment from Jim Williams, who writes, Stephanie Miller took Sean Hannity to school the other week. So Stephanie Miller, was just, a longtime radio person, progressive star, and she and Sean Hannity get along on a friendly. They're friendly, even though their political views are different. And so, Sean was on her radio show. He invited her on the TV show. And what does she do? He asks a question about, Joe Biden's dementia. And Stephanie says, oh, well, about Joe Biden's dementia. How about Donald Trump and the Epstein files? And she just hijacked the segment. And
she was outstanding.
That was
hilarious. So good. I mean, when I go on that show, like, she'll call me an alpha liberal and stuff like, because I argue on these things. And I'm actually going on Monday, and I may just bow down before her. Because it was just, that was epic. That was, I don't know what else to say. I mean, the look on Hannity's face, again, you're right. They had like this friendly kind of whatever, which I respect her for, like, because it works. It gets her on there. And then, I mean, I'm interested to see if he has her on again. I mean, that thing went so viral because she made him look so bad. I mean, she basically, it was perfect, like how I tell Democrats to debate. She defeated him on the points and then laughed at him, which just communicates to people, it's that communication to people of like, this guy's a joke. Why would you take him seriously? So it's beyond just defeating him on the points. It's also the mockery of, why would you trust this idiot? I mean, body language is important on those things. It was perfect.
Rosie, I got to ask you, you mentioned a few minutes ago that, and again, we're so sorry that you're suffering through long COVID. What has your experience been like just dealing with healthcare and the whole system and all the challenges? Because, a lot of us often report on it, but it's different when you're journalistically trained and you're actually living it.
Yeah. I have to say, initially, I got long COVID back in October of 2020 when COVID was new. And so initially, nobody understood long COVID. And I basically just dealt with it with doctors telling me it was all in my head. And it took probably 6 months before there was enough information for me to go to a doctor and say I have long COVID, and they would know what I'm talking about. But that's purely in Utah, where I was living. There is some kind of a genetic makeup of the pioneers in Utah that makes us more susceptible, and the elevation makes us more susceptible. And so there's a higher concentration of long COVID in Utah. And so I ended up having, there's no like clinic. They still never will have a long COVID clinic, but I did have a group of doctors who understood it. And I've ended up with close to like 18 different specialists for all the various systems of the body it's affected. And I'm very fortunate that my insurance covers it, and that the doctors understand it. However, when I moved to Utah or to California, which I did because of long COVID, I got to where the elevation was no longer compatible for me staying alive, is what my doctor told me. She ran out of options to keep me alive and said, you've got to get to low elevation. So I went to California, and that I'm starting all over again because they have not heard of long COVID. They had a long COVID clinic, and I was not eligible for it.
Wait, doctors in California have not heard of long COVID?
No.
But they have in Utah? What world are we in?
Yeah.
I thought California was supposed to be like, progressive and stuff.
The Central California, I waited 8 months to get into a primary care doctor. And when I saw her, she came in the room, she looked at my chart, which I had, pages of symptoms, and she said, okay, I'm only allowed 5 minutes with you. So all we're going to be able to do is make some referrals for you. I still am waiting on those, getting into those doctors, the referrals. So it's a joke. It's a complete joke.
I guess Central California is more concerned. I didn't think about that, right? It's not all LA and San Francisco.
Right. It's Central California. Yeah. So it's just been, so I'm actually here in Utah for the whole week seeing doctors. That's what I'm doing all week, because I have at least 2, sometimes 3 appointments a day, so I can get into all my specialists.
Well, can we say something out loud here?
I don't know.
To our friend Gavin Newsom, who has done a great job of making Trump look stupid, and has stood up. Anybody, Gavin, yourself, or anybody else watching this show connected? It's not a great thing if somebody from California is going to Utah to get the doctors they need. So I think you guys or our friend Eric Swalwell, who I actually know a bit and do like, and I would say he's running for governor. This is something you want to get on because it's sort of crazy that anybody would travel from California to Utah. So, I'm in Ohio, which is rough enough, but if I find myself traveling to Arkansas for something, then we've got issues. Okay, so
Okay. Shout out
fix that.
there. I have to
Fix that,
agree.
guys.
And fair to say that that Rosie, your story would be totally different if you didn't have health insurance.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. And that is a huge issue coming up because my husband's close to retirement and well, he actually did retire, but we were on the marketplace, and with my health, he had to go back to work to be able to get the insurance. And so we're now looking to where he's old enough to get onto Medicaid, but everything we do is predicated by insurance right now. And that
is the stupidest way to have to live. I'm not insulting you. We are in this condition as a country.
Yes.
I was gonna maybe write a piece, and maybe if you don't mind, I may include your story in there, because I wanted to write about hey, it's for me right now, it's deductible season, where I literally the last 2 weeks have had an outpatient operation, a shot, in my arm for whatever shingles or something. I've had to go and get an MRI on my elbow. I've had all these things because it's just like, well, we've reached that point, and they're going to find a way. And my wife and I were joking about this today that we end up just below our deductible anyhow because they always do. But the fact that this has to control our lives, where I have to actually consciously think, hey, we're close to our deductible. I should go get all that stuff done now that I've been putting off. This is not a way to run a healthcare system or a modern country. It is ludicrous.
Yeah.
It is
or
just
even,
ludicrous.
My husband worked hard to be able to retire early, and that was, this big accomplishment. And then, oh, sorry, you got sick. So I'm going back to work full time at a job I hate. I mean, it just shouldn't be that way. Yeah.
We need universal. We're just done. It's all this other stuff. Obamacare was a great accomplishment that I think would be even a greater one. The Supreme Court were a bunch of partisan Republicans in robes and hadn't gotten rid of the individual mandate, which was crucial to that, among other things they've done. But I mean, it's just sort of done now. Okay, we're supposed to be a civilized country theoretically, even though we're not acting like one at all. Like, no more half measures, no more bullshit. Just universal health care, single payer, multi-payer, socialist. I don't really care what you do, but pick something and everybody gets covered. Done.
If me being the optimist, if there is one good thing to come out of this, which hopefully this isn't a definite, but hopefully it's that the progressive voice will be listened to, because look what's happened when it's not listened to. We've gotten to a state that's just unconscionable. We can't live like this.
And a lot of Republicans are going through it, which I think is what's key, is that these people that voted for Trump, or maybe just didn't vote at all because they couldn't find a lesser of two evils. Well, suddenly when you start losing your health care because of what these bastards have done, while Elon gets his $1 trillion package, maybe you rethink that a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Rosie, out of all the stuff you've been writing lately, and I sense that part of your passion for writing, maybe in part because it's sort of cathartic. I mean, I know a lot of journalists who, by being able to write and express, it's a way of us sort of trying to be able to make sense of this very confusing and sometimes infuriating world around us. But what is it for you? And what have you been writing about that has most sort of energized you?
It's cathartic, just like you say. I mean, I was in a position where I needed to get to California, and my husband couldn't leave his job, been through that part. And so I knew I was going to have to go by myself and find a place. And so I'm not disability because I did not work for a company enough hours to get disability. So I have no source of income. Right now, my only source of income is Substack, and depending on my husband.
Subscribe to her Substack, everyone, if you just heard that. Rosie the Resistor, that is her source of income. She's here fighting for democracy while she's dealing with health challenges.
Thank you.
Get a paid subscription, please.
Thank you. And I don't use a paywall. So, it's all voluntary, but thank you. That's very kind.
Well, of course.
Anyway, I decided I just had to do something, and I am limited with my energy, how much energy I can use. And so I was trying to find a job that I could do with my limited energy, and I kept getting interrupted by the news, going back to the news. And, it just, the light bulb went off, and I was like, I'm a journalist. I have a degree in journalism. This is the obvious choice. And so that's where Substack was born. And really my method is to find a subject that both angers me and makes me wonder something that's not being answered. And then I go figure out the answer. And then I write about it. So that's basically my method. And, it's really what I would be doing anyway. I just write it, afterwards.
Can I pick out one of your pieces?
Sure.
The one that you wrote, which again I think resonates with David and I, and I'm going to speak for David on this, and he's just going to have to deal. I'm kidding. That's what you get in Michigan. I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, the necessity that not just Trump has to go, but this entire group of clowns.
Yes.
Because there is this thinking out there among some, like, oh, if we can only get rid of Trump, it'll be all better. Not realizing the culture.
That's one of the things that frustrates me. I'm like, no, that's not going to solve the problem. That's the tip of the iceberg.
If you want to talk about your piece, like, what your feelings are and whatever, because I thought that was really well written and really well argued, and I couldn't agree with it more. So, I mean, and that's my standard for having people talk about their pieces. I'm just kidding. But if you seriously, if you would like, I think it would educate people if you would be willing to talk about it.
And I'm not looking at it, maybe I can pull it up, but from what I remember, part of it is that I get frustrated when I hear, can we impeach him on this? Can we impeach him on this? Because we've been playing that game. He's been impeached a couple of times. And
third time he gets a set of steak knives. Sorry,
yeah, right. And even if this time they make him step down, well, then we get and that's the plan. We're playing right into their plan if that's as far as it goes. We need to, and I don't know if I put this in this piece or another one, but we need to insist that the Democrats step up for one thing, and not play this game of, let them learn their lesson, or we're sure they learn their lesson and carry on. The Democrats have to get a plan in place to get rid of the whole crew. And impeach all of them. We can't just impeach one guy. We can't impeach all of them. They can be impeached.
Yeah, they impeached,
but it's going to take longer. It's not as easy.
Our DHS had, right? Like, and I still, again, these are the messaging wars and the things that drive me nuts that Democrats don't fight. Like, you've done it with Trump a couple of times. I'm not saying you shouldn't impeach Trump again. Maybe just keep impeaching him every week on a different thing and send that message. But there are a whole bunch of other people there, like Hegseth. Why would you not right now start impeachment inquiries into him? Why would you not into Kristi Noem? Why would you not into Tom Homan? Why would you not into Pam Bondi? Kash Patel? Those are just off the top of my head. I can think of people that have committed, I'll use the word allegedly to protect myself, but let's be, allegedly committed all sorts of crimes, including perjury, including many other things. Why would we not start that process? I don't really understand it.
Yeah. So that's basically my point, is that it'll take longer. It's messier. It's more work, but let's do it, because this clean little, let's get rid of Trump just is exactly what they want. They want to be gone with Trump too. He's become a wild card. They can't manage him, and they'd love to see him gone, I think.
And Cliff, to your point, I mean, the evidence is already there, right? We've already got a judge who's found probable cause with Kristi Noem that she should be held in criminal contempt for violating a judge's order. So she could be impeached for that. We've got
that
Pete
flight
Hegseth for
to El Salvador, right? Is what you're
right.
talking
I
about.
mean,
Yes.
Pete Hegseth for launching unconstitutional strikes without going to Congress. On top of you could probably get him for perjury, but there's all of that. Kash Patel, improper use of government aircraft to fly around with his girlfriend for the Mile High Club or whatever he's sort of doing. Pam Bondi for what she's done with the Epstein files and destruction of evidence and obstruction.
And the
You could go down the list; it's all there.
You wrote about that too, the Halligan appointment, and they're illegally trying to get a brief in there that hadn't been actually introduced to the grand jury, which is something they could be disbarred for. I think you could also go after Bondi on that. Like, it is all right there. And again, if this were the Republicans, I've brought this up so many shows before, and I have to believe it's the leadership there, but some of these folks stand up on the Democratic side and are awesome. And I just wish, you know what, just fuck your leadership. If they won't do this, do it. Because I'm just tired of it. These are people that made Hunter Biden a household name. Okay, he didn't do anything wrong. Actually, the two things that he did do wrong are things Republicans cheer for. He didn't he didn't register his gun, and he didn't pay taxes. These are two things Republicans want everybody to do. But they're the only two things they could find on Hunter Biden.
Right.
They made Benghazi a negative word associated with Hillary. Nobody knew what it meant. I bet you right now most people can't tell you exactly what happened, but they know somehow Hillary was bad. Solyndra with Obama. That somehow some company was paying. I mean, they do this where they create these fake scandals, and the way they get them into the media bloodstream is not just their vast right-wing media, which is part of it, but part of it is their chumps up on the Hill like Jim Jordan and James Comer, and hold hearings, call people in, talk about it. I don't even care if the hearings we have to hold right now are shadow hearings. The press will cover it. Do it. If you can't get it done because we don't control either chamber. I mean, it is how you fight an information war, and we're not even participating.
Yeah.
Sorry, my rant.
Sorry, I don't.
Don't be sorry. I'm sorry. You talk more. I'll shut
one
up.
of the last posts I just wrote is basically about corporate Democrats, and there's actually some new whistleblower information naming them as part of the Epstein files, not necessarily as sex offenders, but as participants in the corporate scheme of Epstein. And
you know who you're talking about specifically, or no?
No. Okay. No specific names were listed. But I think you can, it's pretty easy to figure out the leadership that's pushed out some of the more progressive members. And let's see, trying to remember the name of the person who named the whistleblower. This will shoot. It's not in front of me. Memory loss is one of my things. It'll come to me. But anyway, she was the one that blew the whistle, and I wrote a post about it, just to kind of summarize it because it was so complicated.
I'm right there with you, both on the memory loss and I think this idea of a cleansing of both parties. I mean, and Cliff, you and I have spoken about this before. Release all the files and let the chips fall where they may. If they fall against Republicans, if they fall against Democrats, anybody who is involved, whether it's in pedophilia, whether it's involved in these, shady financial dealings, regardless of where their political affiliation is, remove them. And I think, the Democratic Party will be better served if we get rid of, people in our party who are part of this.
And our culture and everything we believe.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I don't care. Democrat, Republican, Independent, Constitutional Party. You rape somebody, you commit pedophilia, you go to prison.
Absolutely.
In my estimation, forever.
Right.
I don't give a damn what else you did. I will be happy. If you passed a good policy way back when, good. I'll say that was a good policy. But if you're involved in this is the sickest behavior. I mean, what is the sickest behavior? Again, what Pete Hegseth is doing is up there too, but it is among the most horrific things you can do. And no, I don't give a damn what your ideology is, right? Like, that's why what makes us different. That's why we are Democrats. And yeah, there are some corporate Democrats, but that's why I always say the Democratic Party is far from perfect, but at least we have a good chunk of people in our party who care about working folks, who care about people's rights, who fight and do all of that. You know,
Exactly.
you could say there's 30%, 20, whatever you want to estimate of Democrats that suck, whereas it's about 98% of Republicans. I think that's being generous.
Right.
So,
and I think even in the Democrat Party, let me just say, This Will Hold is the Substacker who has all the receipts. If you're interested in looking that up, I didn't carry over any of that because her story, I don't know if it's her even, it's his or her story is very long and detailed. And so I basically just pulled out the summary of it. But I want to give them credit. This Will Hold. And basically the concept here is that these Democrats are still Democrats and they still believe in the same things that Democrats believe in. They're not necessarily pedophiles, but they've put money for it and they answer to people. And you know, whether they go or not, I don't know, but they should not be in leadership and they should not be making the decisions. And we need to bring up the people who are working for the people. So that's my basic
If you've
point.
done anything to protect pedophiles, as far as I'm concerned, you're as guilty.
True.
And if you've done anything where you've even been willing to associate, so that I don't think you're guilty of a crime, but if you've been willing to take money from some of the donors who you know were involved, then just get the hell out of
Good
Congress
point.
and don't ask for my support, and you have no moral authority. Go away.
Right.
I mean, there just have to be certain lines we have to draw if we're going to live up to what we hope to live up to, and also if we're going to contrast ourselves with the evil that they are. And this is pretty simple. You can't do this, then I don't know what it is. Where's the line drawn then? You know, David, where's it drawn?
Well, for me, the line is drawn at 3:00 Eastern time when I go pick up my kids. And so before we get to that line, Rosie, I got to ask you. So for everybody who's looking for your stuff, give us all the vital information. Where can people find you? Again, the Substack, social media, all that stuff.
We're losing your voice.
That's your microphone there. Try again.
Oh, the microphone. Yeah. It's like right when you tell us where to find you, we lose your voice. We can't have that happen.
Oh, no.
Well, we've got Lawrence has got this up here, which is the Resistors Report.
Right.
Substack.
There is a link to my profile where I have all my links to all my other channels on my profile on Substack. So that's probably the easiest.
I saw that, and I may be able to share that quickly, though I would never trust me to do anything quickly when it comes to the world of finding anything. But I did have it.
And Rosie, I understand that you used to be quite a aficionado of cable news.
I'm not sure where that comes from.
Like maybe 15, 20 years ago, you were. I understand you were a big fan of MSNBC.
Oh yeah.
Was there a guy named David Shuster that you were a big fan of? Did you say
that's where you're going?
Who is that handsome young buck on there? Because
Rosie has aged better than I have.
Absolutely. When I got the invite to come on here, I was like, that's big time news. I'm just Rosie.
There's just no. The thing is, as I always say, there's no big time stars or celebrities or anything in the world of cable or broadcast news or streaming. We're just all doing our thing. But no, the world of
what her
world
response
of cable.
was? Her response was,
I'm sorry,
I get to go on with David Shuster and that other guy. And I'm so cool with being that other guy. If David Shuster is the I'm good with the other guy.
That's the other guy. That's all right. Rosie, great to have you on the program, and congratulations on all the amazing work that you've been doing, and again, doing it through some pretty challenging circumstances. And so nothing but respect for the courage that you've shown and continuing to plug away and continuing to sort of have your voice out there despite everything else going on, and encourage everybody to go to Rosie's Substack, Rosie the Resistor, and be a paid subscriber, not just a subscriber, but a paid subscriber. And so we'll have you on again sometime soon, Rosie.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
Thank you for being here, Rosie. And let me just say one other thing, which is please, it sounds like from what you said, your healthcare is covering most to all. Is that right?
Yes.
But if that starts becoming a non-reality, and You know, I can't believe in the richest country in the world we need to do this bullshit. So,
It's
but if
true.
we need to
It's true.
do some kind of a GoFundMe or something,
I
please let us
appreciate
know.
that. I do have it's a $7,000 out of pocket that we cover at the beginning of the year. First couple months that gets covered, and so that is coming up. So
Well, if you have
that's where
trouble
your
covering that,
subscription
you
will
know,
go. So thank you.
get a subscription, but if you have trouble with that, please reach out to us and let
I
us know so
appreciate
we
it.
can try to be helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us here.
All right. It's been so
And
great.
after a couple challenges and some sound loss and some sight, I mean,
in other words, just a normal day for you and I, Cliff.
Exactly. And normally, David and I, you guys haven't gotten to see David's awesome tech abilities too. The two of us combined, like we could start World War III. Don't let us in the room or anything like that. But yeah, we've gotten through it. Rosie's been awesome. I hope you guys have learned some things, enjoyed yourselves. You know, we did this as an experiment. I want everybody to know to not just to Substack this time, to everywhere. Let us know if you like that, because we're thinking of going back to what we used to do with the Thursday one, going out to all of our various platforms instead of just Substack. And you know, do not forget to take care of yourself. Go out, see a movie, have a drink, see a friend, call somebody you love, like relax a little bit,
Agreed.
and then get back into the fight, because we all need that. So, you know,
Great words to end on.
The words, yes, I was going to say the words I like to end on, which is words from a movie some of you may know, and you can figure it out if you do. As the sun sets slowly in the west, my friends, we bid you a fond farewell.